Hi, True Crew. How you doing? Welcome back to another episode. If you're new to the channel, once again, I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you find some valuable information and you subscribe. Don't forget to follow on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Google+. The podcast is out there as well. Check out the website. Get your free download, Setting Goals, Fitness, and Nutrition. All those links are down below. I apologize for the no light situation, the darkness, but as you can see when I turn this light on, I don't think it gets any better, does it? I don't think so. So I'm going to go dark. It's a cloudy day, rainy. It is what it is, right? So coming at you today with a recap on my half Ironman here in Boulder, Colorado. Did it the other day on the 5th. And let you know how it went. So I tried to look up my results real quick. It didn't show. But I think it was about, if I remember right, my watch said 6:42, but I think when I looked it up, it was 6:50. So it took me 6:50 to do the half Ironman. My swim for the 1.2 miles was 41 minutes. I felt really good in the swim. The bike was about 3:20, 3:30-ish. And then the half marathon was 2:28, I think, which isn't bad for what I had trained for. When I was running on my own, I did a couple long, slow runs with the boss in the mountains, but just around the neighborhood in the city here, I did 3 long runs, I think, and they were all about 12.5 miles, and I did those 12.5 miles in about 2 hours and 3 minutes, 2 hours and 5 minutes. So in reality, my run was exactly on point, right? When I looked at the math, it was on point for what I do normally, without biking 56 miles and doing all that other stuff. So I was really impressed with that. So my swim, like I said, my swim is really good because 2 weeks prior, if you go back and check out my video on my first triathlon ever, was the Olympic, which is 2 weeks ago at the Boulder Reservoir as well. And I did the 0.9 mile swim or whatever it was in 35 minutes. So it took me 6 extra minutes to go the extra 0.3 miles. I felt really strong at the beginning. I struggled. They did a horrible job, though, with parking and getting there in the morning. It took us literally, we were less than a mile, maybe a mile away, and there were no police officers out there directing traffic or something. So for us to get there, it took, less than a mile away in traffic. It took a little over an hour with parking. They had to delay the races all like 15, 20 minutes. So what it came down to is we literally got there. We were supposed to be in the water at 7:38. We didn't get in till 8. And like I said, we were on the road literally a mile away at 6 o'clock. And we didn't get in till almost like 7:20. So we literally ran to our bikes, dropped everything. I ran up there, put my wetsuit on the beach, and literally had 5 minutes before we jumped in the water. So I had no warm-up, no nothing. I didn't even get in the water. I literally stood in the wave lines, walked out into the water, dunked myself, and then the gun shot, the whistle, whatever, the beep, and went for it. I felt really good in the swim. In reality, the entire Ironman, besides the swim, I think the swim was the more challenging part just because with the Olympic, there was less people in the water, I think, and they were sending the waves out maybe in longer durations because they were doing it every 3 minutes, and I think for the Olympic, they did it every 5. So I was getting passed sooner, and I was passing people, but the water was a lot more choppier. So I was drinking more water. I was doing a lot of burping, I'm not going to lie. But I felt really good during the swim, especially towards the end. I took an elbow to the face, and I took a foot to the face. The foot to the face knocked my goggles off, but that's because I was in a good rhythm, and I came up on a dude. And I just happened to come up right behind him, and I caught that foot right to the face, hit my goggles off. There's more people in the water, so I was running into people just waiting and struggling. Or just trying to catch their breath maybe. I know I did it a few times. I didn't swim consistently. But I did better with the sighting. And maybe that was also because there were more people. So when there's more people around you, it's easier to kind of stay in a pack or stay close and have better vision in the water because my sighting still wasn't good. Versus the Olympic, I veered way off course and I had to zoom back around and all this craziness. But I felt really good in the swim. Like I said, I was really proud of that. The bike, like I said, is about 3 hours and 30 minutes, something like that, maybe a little longer, 3:40. I averaged 17.7 miles an hour on the bike ride. Felt good for the most part. The one thing I would say, I had my Camelback. I drank all that. One thing I would say for those, if you've never done it before, is I had a water bottle. My lady bought me the water bottle to go in there, into my little holder down there. And I saw like the pros or the experienced people, they're just chucking water bottles at aid stations and putting the Gatorades in there. The good thing is they're giving you full Gatorades on the ride. But I would just drink part of the Gatorade and then just chuck it, right? And the one thing I would have changed was I would have either got off my bike and stopped for a second, or I would have, I need to get better at being able to pull out the water bottle, unscrew it, and then pour that Gatorade in there, because I drank my full 2 liters of water. I drank that whole one thing right there, and I think if I would have drank that, I would have been better, I would have had more energy and been able to run better, in my opinion, but maybe not, because I know towards the end, like the last 5-10 miles of the bike ride, I had nothing. But other than that, I thought on the, because they didn't have a aid station towards the end of the bike ride, so you went a long period without something. But other than that, like I said, I didn't want to chuck the bottle because the lady had got it for me. So I I saw some people with some on the back where you can just pull it off, or I needed to take that time to even get off my bike and refill my Camelback. So that's one thing I would definitely tell you out there. Either have another holder, maybe 2 water bottles, I would say, instead of 1. Definitely 2 water bottles. If you're going to have 1, either prepare to chuck it or fill it up, pause, fill it up, whatever you need to do. Definitely need a Camelback as well. I would say, with my Camelback, instead of being complete water, maybe next time I would add more calories into that as well. I would say if you're going to eat, probably eat on the bike, like the bananas and things like that. Because when I was cycling, I didn't have any issues. When I run, I have a lot of digestive or stomach issues. Even if it's just drinking water, I think it's sloshing around in there, and that's something that I struggled with a lot. But other than that, I think the bike was good. No problem. Now when it comes to the bike ride or to the run, like I said, the first 6 miles, the first 10K, I did that faster than I did during the Olympic. So, I can't complain. When I looked at it, I think my average was 11 minutes and 9 seconds for the Olympic. Now, the one thing, or for the IronMan, because I think I did the 10K in the Olympic at 10, or an hour and 2 minutes, an hour 1 and some change. And when I looked at my watch this time, I think I did, the 6.5 miles or something, at least that equivalent in like 55, 56. So I think I beat that by 5 minutes, if not at least by 3 or 4. So I was really happy with that. But then towards the end, that's where I said I needed more calories, I think, on the bike, just because at the end, they were still handing out Gatorades and things like that, but like I said, my stomach was hurting whenever I would eat something, or, I'll drink is what I did a majority of the time. Then towards the end, I was trying to eat a banana or something like that. But they had the Red Bulls, and there they weren't handing out the full Gatorades, just the little cups. But I think if I would have consumed more on the bike, I would have been better on the run. So that's something I'm going to do next time. Figure out how to carry more calories on me, and I think I'll do better in that sense. The run, other than that, I felt good, except I was running through aid stations, and then about on that second lap, once I hit about mile 7, then I would walk the aid stations, and then I would run. And then if I got to a hill, I would walk up part of the hill, and then or run up part of the hill, then I'd walk, and then I'd walk every aid station. And then about the last 2 miles, it was to the point to where it's like, I'll walk to that bush, I'm going to run to that rock. I'm going to walk to that rock, I'm going to run to that bush. So that's where I fell off those last 2 miles. And I think if I'd have had the extra calories, I probably would have done better, but who knows? But in reality, I'm happy with what happened. It wasn't bad. I think the event was well organized besides that situation at the beginning. There were a lot of people upset with the that whole thing of taking over an hour to get less than a mile in. And like I said, I don't know what truly happened with it, but I know after sitting there for about 45 minutes, then all of a sudden like 5 cops just come zooming by with their lights on and everything. Like they didn't even have the course set up. We're sitting there waiting, and they were driving the street putting the cones down. And in my opinion, I would assume, I drive through my own streets here, at night sometimes, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. There's not that many cars on the road. So if you're going to shut I know it's a major like side highway type thing, but in my opinion, you should have had that stuff all coned off the night before. Like you should have been paying people to be out there at 1 o'clock in the morning putting cones up versus they were driving around coning off the road at 6:30 in the morning when the race was supposed to start. Like the pros were supposed to get in the water at 7:05, and they were putting the cones up at 6:30 in the morning for the bike ride. I don't know. My opinion, I think that was not the greatest move. Like I said, for those who don't believe me, there's the medal. It was great. I think mentally, at no point did I ever really hate the race. It got to the point, though, at the end where I was like walking and running and walking and running. I just kept thinking to myself, there's no way I can do a half Ironman or a full Ironman. There's no way. That's what I kept thinking. I was like, there's no way I can do a full. That's all I kept thinking. And then I got a Spartan race at the end of this month. Right now it's the 7th. I think that's the 25th, 26th. So I got about 20 days to recover and try and get a little strength back. And I kept thinking about that. And, I don't know if you've ever done that. You're watching the Ironman. If you've ever done this is an Ironman video, but if you've never done a Spartan race, what it comes down to is, every obstacle you fail, you have to do 30 burpees. So all I kept thinking, I was thinking about that race while I was struggling at the end of that. And I just kept thinking, I'm not going to do one damn burpee when I fail an obstacle, blah, blah, blah. All those things were like racing through my mind. I never at any point really hated the race. I just wish I could have been a little more consistent on the run towards the end. And I think maybe if I got more calories in on the bike, that would have happened, because every time I hit an aid station, I would drink some Gatorade and do something like that, but it just upset my stomach, and and I was cramping, and maybe that comes down to, they say, you need to experiment with the different fluids and fruits and whatever you're going to be eating when you're training. And I drank some water, I guess, when I was running around here. My second long run, my second or third, or my last long run, I was drinking some water and some things like that, and I don't think I had that problem. Maybe I was just too stressed. My body was too stressed at the end of that race. Because actually now, I did do some drinking of water and stuff like that. But I don't know. It was a good experience. I don't mind it now. Even the next day, I had to work the next day. My boss, who did the race, who was supposed to do the race with me, we both worked the next day. So I did that, and I had to go into work the next day. But for him, his wetsuit ripped down the back during the swim. He tried to pull it off on one of the little boards out there, the little long boards, and they just towed him in. They're like, you can start over, because he's about halfway through the swim, a little over half mile, 3/4 of a mile in. They're like, you can go again. And he was like, nah, whatever. So in reality, I think the one thing I never trained for when running is I never actually ran a full half marathon when I ran. So in reality, I would say aim for 14 miles. If you're going to do it, don't hit the straight 13.1. Go for 14. I only ever ran my farthest because the boss would just say, a 2-hour long run. And I always hit like 2 to 2.5 miles, or 12 to 12.5 miles. So in reality, make sure you at least get a couple runs in at 14, a little bit over. Because that's about where I conked, about that 11, 12 miles, and I'd never ran more than that. So I would say hit for 14, and then just try to get your bike up, I hit 17.7 miles an hour, which is great, but when I first started training, I was barely like 14, 15, so I increased by about 3 miles an hour through my 18 weeks of training, my 20 weeks of training, whatever I did, I'm happy with that, and I'd say work on hills. They don't seem like they're big out there. What we were biking was still very, they were large hills compared to what I had to encounter on the course, or at least they were large. There might have been a couple hills during the race where that were as steep, but not as long as what I was biking before that race. But some of those are that slow, gradual, and they're just freaking long. They're not steep and long. I never hit any steep and long ones, but I hit, gradual and super long, which I never really trained for that. A lot of the stuff we were doing was just super steep. And I don't know what I'm saying there, but, so yeah, make sure you get some heel work. And definitely just ride. If you do a couple nice long runs and you're still, doing some 10Ks and some things in the middle, you should be fine. And for those of you who think, oh, I can't do it because of an injury, this or that, I have major sciatica because I haven't been doing my, my corrective exercises for that. And I had gout at the time. Like, I didn't even know what gout was. And look at this thing, man. If you can see it. How far that thing pokes out right here. I had major gout going into this thing. I got it like a month ago. I had gout, major sciatica, and almost 2 years ago now, I tore my meniscus and never got it repaired. So don't ever I've always heard people say, oh, I got sciatica pain, I can't do nothing. That pain never once even popped up. My low back almost cinched up once. That was it. Meniscus, nothing. My shoulders were hurting a lot. But don't let those little nagging things get to you. Just the week going up to it, foam roll a lot, stretch a lot, you'll be fine. I've got videos on corrective exercises. If you've got certain pains in different areas, I've got tons of videos on that. Check that out. It should be under somatics. I think it's labeled as somatics, maybe pain reduction or something like that. But check that out. So yeah, overall, great. 6 hours, 50 minutes, something like that. Not bad. Next year's the full. I wasn't thinking that on Saturday after the race. I was like, nope. And now I'm ready for it. 2-3 days later, I'm ready to get out there and do something with it. So once again, thank you for tuning in. I hope this helps. Remember, this is a mind, body, spirit, fitness channel. Spirituality, Christianity, exercise, fitness, nutrition, motivation, all that good stuff. Please subscribe. Follow them on social media. All those links are down below. Share and like these videos.